Woo woo. Yay. One of them is my applause, but one of them is my applause. It ain't acting right. There we go. It's me. It's always me. Here we go. It's always me. All right, y'all. So this is the one because I just tried a while ago to do this twice and sound and stuff just didn't want to work right. So here we go. All right. So let's get into it. Here I am. I haven't been here, but it's a lot to talk about. As you know, City of Chicago elected Brandon Johnston to be its mayor, and that man, I don't know, he's special. Like he not okay. him not okay. Him not okay. So hold on one second. I just want to make sure I got these little levels right. I need to hear that. Okay, I think we good. All right. So yeah, him not okay. He's trying too hard for sure. Like I understand you're only the third black mayor that's been elected to the city of Chicago. I think the fourth total, but Eugene, whatever his name was, whose son ran against him this last election. I cannot think of that man's name, but he basically was like the fourth black mayor, but he wasn't elected. Like he was I forgot, what do you call that? He replaced Harold Washington when he died. Black mayors. Oh my God, is that what ay Dios. It's so good that you guys can't see what I'm doing over here. Awesome. Black mayor. Okay, Chicago. Harley Washington. Okay, so how many black mayors? Okay, here we go. Yeah. So yeah. So Harold Washington, first black mayor, 83 to 87. Lori Lightfoot, 2019 to 2023, was the first African-American woman and first LGBT mayor. Okay, Brandon Johnston, 2023 now. And then Eugene Sawyer, who was selected by the council after Washington died in office. So his son ran this last cycle. I'm trying to think his name. Roderick. There it is. Roderick Sawyer. So Roderick Sawyer ran and lost to Brandon. All right. So yes, you are our third elected black mayor, and we're very happy to have you, sir. But we're gonna need you to act right, because you're not doing what Black people, I think, expect of you. And for anyone who thinks that Black people shouldn't expect anything of their politicians, of their politicians, you're whack, and you're what's wrong with the community. So yeah, the man is stubborn, hard-headed, and we're just gonna have to deal with him until he resigns. And people want him to. When I first started talking about this, I don't think a lot of people were really trying to, think about that like that. But now, yeah, people want this man to get gone, sir. So yeah, let's look at this. So, 1, 2, 3. Yo lo tengo todo bien. No hay nada preocuparme, okay? Like, todo bien. I don't know why you're doing that. Okay, stop. Eso no me sirve. Por nada. Okay, here we go. Eso. All right. So one thing I wanted to look up was I had looked something up last night, but I don't know what happened to my little notes. But Sanctuary City. All right. Sanctuary City is a municipality that limits or denies its cooperation with the national government in enforcing immigration law. But what do you call it when the national government doesn't want to enforce immigration law? I don't know. What are we doing? This is conspiracy. That's called a conspiracy to break national immigration law, I think. So yeah, I mean, we don't get to vote on it because Brandon Johnson said that we don't get to vote on it. It's there because Harold Washington decided for it to become, our legacy, and here we are, suffering. To put it lightly. So yeah, the city of Chicago, if you go to like their website, it will dictate to you like what is a sanctuary city. And basically, it just means we're not gonna cooperate with ICE. Okay. It's supposed to be saving us money and resources. Rahm Emanuel codified it. Harold Washington is the one who initially made us a sanctuary city. And then Rahm Emanuel codified it into an ordinance in like 2014 or something behind like anti-Muslim rhetoric or something. So yeah, and now it's like we're stuck with this. And I mean, it's not as bad as New York because New York has a right to shelter law, which basically means they're supposed to feed and clothe everyone. But Eric Adams is like, we weren't talking about like the whole world, but he was all about that life like last year. Anyway. So yeah, so now we're in a situation where these people are in Chicago and some of them are very disappointed with what they've been met with. And yeah, so let's get into that a little bit. So there's been a lot of pushback where people say that, well, all of the migrants are here for a better life. And there's some people who want to push back against that because, like, first of all, we're calling them all migrants and we're calling them all asylum seekers. That's Brandon Johnston's favorite term to use. And it's like, sir, they're not all asylum seekers. Those borders are wide open and they know it. People know it. And so people are coming across that border for all kinds of reasons. So the sanctuary city like started back with some churches back in the 80s. And then, Harold Washington decided to create the sanctuary city in Chicago. But yeah, at the end of the day, you're saving money on enforcing deportations and things like that. But then at this rate, I don't think you guys were thinking about the borders being wide open. And so at this rate, how do you sustain that? Like, I don't understand how you're managing a city's budget and you think this is okay. Like, that alone is problematic for me. Okay. And so at least Eric Adams is waking up, but our mayor, he's stubborn. He doubling down. So let's look at this downfall of Brandon Johnson in the last few weeks since I've kind of been on hiatus. So the migrants were complaining about the cold. They didn't like being in
Joining
the
me now is Alton
police
Cabello,
stations. And then check this out. Of course, Fox take it with a grain
both
of salt.
sides of the border. Alton, we reached out to Mexican authorities and the DHS for a statement. Neither responded. What are the migrants telling you about why they're coming now? Who do you think is behind this?
Hey, Laura, it was great to be with you. And that's one of my main questions that I ask the migrants when I interview them on the Mexican side, is like, why are you coming now? And without hesitating, the answer is that the border is open. They talk about President Biden's invitation and that they're going to be helped. That's one of the main answers that they give. And I ask them, why now? Why didn't you come before? Have you heard of President Trump? It's like, oh yeah, we've heard of him, and he was very strict, and we weren't going to risk coming under him to get deported. And that's why we're coming out. We know that under this administration, we're going to be helped. And this morning, on my way over to Eagle Pass from Del Rio, I stopped at the NGO, and one of the migrants approached me from Venezuela, and he was complaining because the NGO kicked him out. He didn't have money to buy his bus ticket. He's like, aren't they supposed to help us? What are we going to do now in the streets without any money? Who's going to help us? And that's their mindset. Is that
yeah? So Alden, they're being told that basically things are going to be paid for. They're going to be taken care of. Now that runs counter to a narrative, Alden, that they're only coming here to work. These are just workers. We need workers. We want all these, jobs that Americans won't do. By the way, that most people in my family did. They won't do these jobs, so we need these people. What are you finding?
Yeah, so in this sector, the real sector, you have about 90% that are Venezuelan and some Central Americans. And their mindset is that they're going to be helped. They're coming from socialist or communist countries, and they're used to this lifestyle where the government is providing everything. And they're coming with that same mindset to the United States, that the government is going to issue out handouts and everything's going to be free for them. I've been asked, how am I going to get a free vehicle? How am I going to get a free house? These are questions that they're asking, and that's the mindset that these migrants that are crossing in this sector are coming with. They believe that the government is going to help them out and give everything free for them.
Well, I mean, that's pretty much right under Biden. I mean, they pretty much get what they want. They complain about the food once they get here, complain about this or that. But Alden, I know you've actually...
Okay, so we know that's Fox. We know we got to take that with a grain of salt. But at the end of the day, y'all got eyes. Y'all got eyes. Y'all got brains. And then check this out.
Tonight, Madabel. Yeah, that moment was caught on camera and then sent to us. The migrants that are here, as you can see behind me, right now are setting up their beds outside, some of them without a tent, just sleeping on the floor in the cold temperatures. You can also see some of them going in and out of the station lobby, but they tell us they're not allowed to spend the night there.
This is not a game.
Video sent to CBS 2 appears to show an officer from the 5th District Police Station in Pullman telling migrants staying in their lobby to leave.
I want everybody out the station, out this lobby, all this junk out of here.
Junk referring to their belongings. Volunteers who work with migrants here telling us this comes after some of the asylum seekers were taken to a shelter Tuesday. According to them, those who didn't go were told by the officer they could no longer sleep in the lobby despite the frigid temperatures. Some of the migrants we spoke to say there was no more room for them. Others, like this man, didn't want to stay at a shelter. They say this feels like retaliation for staying. We asked Chicago police about this video and if their policy on allowing migrants to sleep in their lobbies has changed. They didn't provide comment, only referring us to the Office of Emergency Management and Communications. We're waiting to hear back from them.
I don't know for sure, but this is what I heard.
Okay.
That they got kicked out.
After hearing the migrants might have to spend the night outdoors,
she called them people.
She's
trying to go, she don't know. I don't know what happened, but this is what I heard. I showed up on the scene before y'all did.
A harsh break for them, They're out here in the cold, and this shouldn't be. This shouldn't be for anybody. We serve the homeless in Chicago, too.
The migrants say they want work permits to be able to move into their own places. And although they say they're thankful to the officers who've allowed them to stay here so far, they say the way they're being asked to leave and stay out in the cold is inhumane.
You can't throw us out like animals outside. Oh my
Now,
goodness.
starting tomorrow, a network of 17 churches citywide will be taking in around 100 migrants into their spaces, providing them with temporary shelter. Volunteers here tell me this could be one of the reasons why the police stations are asking the migrants to leave.
And so that was one of the reasons. So Brandon Johnston was adamant that we got to get these people off the lobby floors of the police station and things like that. He was more concerned in his press with, pregnant women and children and all that, right? But at the end of the day, if you invite all these people and say, come on, and you ain't came up with a plan to house them, this is your fault. You can blame whoever you want, but you've known for over a year that this has been going on. When you were running to be mayor, you knew that this was going on. You bragged about how you were an organizer, and you still got this going on. Okay. And so these folks were kicked out the stations. They ain't really like that. I think
joining me now is Out in Cabela, who's
they didn't really like that. And then we got stuff like this happening in border towns because they not gonna wait until they back against the wall like y'all did.
My name is Gail Keir. I'm the founder.
As migrants continue to come to Chicagoland, one of the largest suburbs is taking fast action to keep them out of the village. Thank you for joining us tonight at 9. I'm Dawn Hasbrook.
And I'm Anthony Ponce. Scott has the night off. The Schaumburg Village Board held a special meeting tonight and approved a new hotel tax. Fox 32's Gabriela Primus is live to explain more. Gabriela.
Yeah, Dawn, Anthony, the Village of Schaumburg Board unanimously voted tonight. They voted to approve an ordinance that would establish a tax on hotel stays of 30 days and longer.
Trustee Madej?
Aye.
Trustee Dunham?
Aye.
Trustee Sullivan?
Aye.
The idea behind the new tax is to make it too expensive for anyone to send migrants to Schaumburg's hotels. The board called Tuesday night's meeting, apparently after getting word that a migrant move was in the works. Residents we talked to have mixed reactions. Wade Ash doesn't mind having migrants moving into his northwestern suburb, but Nicole Murray was happy to hear that the village is taking action before they may come.
The migrants, they're people. We want to be able to take care of them.
I think Schaumburg is doing a good thing by being proactive with this decision that they're making now before last minute.
The village agrees, saying in tonight's agenda, the news is a concern because of the lack of a comprehensive plan for services that migrants may require. The village says it was informed that an unspecified entity was considering several suburban hotels, including 3 in Schaumburg, to house migrants. And board members responded with a strategy already being used in Rosemont. Rosemont passed to establish a tax on long-term stays if a migrant housing plan is executed. The ordinance includes the $1,000 per month tax for stays of 30 days or more.
I think it's a good thing. It's better to be proactive than reactive.
Now, is she a racist? Is that black lady a racist? I just want to know. And then we have this happening in Denver.
Today, the city of Denver executed its largest encampment sweep, moving 100 people off the streets and into a hotel on Quebec Street. It's part of Mayor Mike Johnston's commitment to get 1,000 people off Denver streets and into some sort of housing by the end of the year. The only problem, Denver Mayor Johnston's push is now overflowing to other metro area cities. Your reporter in Aurora, Tori Mason, tracking how this initiative, Tori, is now straining your community there in Aurora.
Well, Karen, Denver is simply running out of places to put all of these migrants. You might have seen a few of them camping around downtown. And according to the city of Aurora, Denver's decision to lease out this motel behind me and bring migrants here, that was Denver's decision alone. But now it's Aurora residents who are suffering.
Denver is sheltering more
than 2,600
migrants.
I thought this was a democracy, y'all. What's going on?
400 stay at this Quality Inn in Aurora. Before their arrival, Joe Sauceda, his partner, and their dog had been living here for months.
We sleep in the front.
But for the last few days, they've been living in a car.
We have blankets and all that. It is a big car, but still.
The city of Denver leased the motel to shelter the latest wave of migrants. When they moved in, Joe and others who called Quality Inn home were forced out.
Some of them were older people, and they've been there for years. And where do they go?
Joe's parked outside his place of work. His employer, Aurora Councilwoman Danielle Jurenski.
This is Denver Mayor Mike Johnston busing migrants into the city of Aurora, taking up our hotels and throwing out American citizens, Aurora residents, onto the streets.
And a statement to see.
Wait, what? A Democratic mayor busing migrants to a neighboring town and putting citizens out of their rooms. Who would have thought? Who would have thought? Is he a racist?
CBS Colorado, the city of Aurora says, while Denver provided a general heads up to Aurora about this possibility over the last few weeks, they have not communicated how they will provide resources to the migrants, including food, transportation, and other services.
Because nobody has a
Aurora is not a
plan.
sanctuary city. However, Denver proudly prides themselves on being a sanctuary city.
In a statement, the office
She's
of Mayor
done.
Johnston writes, this facility was opened in late November with the understanding and cooperation of Aurora and Arapahoe County officials.
It don't sound
Nearly
like
300
cooperation
people
to
arrived
me.
in Denver on Thanksgiving Day, and we worked quickly to bring on hundreds of rooms to help people get out of the cold.
It got pretty chilly.
But now it's people like Joe struggling to stay warm.
I know they're trying to better themselves by coming here, but the fact is that we have our own people that we need to take care of.
This is true. Okay, so how are you a sanctuary city? How are you a Democratic mayor? How are you criticizing the Republicans for busing these people to your city, but then you go and do the same thing to a neighboring town? Like she said, y'all wanted to be a sanctuary city. We saw the writing on the wall. Now you want us to pay for your bad executive decisions. Interesting. So yeah, I'm just trying to figure this out. So Brandon, back to Chicago. Brandon, I don't know if he's not opening the paper and looking at his dream team homeboys and seeing what's going on with them, in their sanctuary cities, but he's just gonna keep on doubling down on the nonsense until he looked like Boo Boo the Fool. But guess what? He already looked like Boo Boo the Fool. So actually, before we get to that, let's look at one more thing about these migrants in the hotels. 1 second.
Hey, Ben Stiller
Not
here.
Ben Stiller.
Right now, millions of refugees and displaced families are facing dangerous winter weather, and they need our help.
The burden on employers during a historic labor shortage, including the hotel industry.
We have 1,600 open positions in hotels just in the city of Chicago today, and we have thousands of migrants looking to work.
But neighbors say here at Inn of Chicago, there's a big problem with the work some migrants are already doing.
They're hanging out on the sidewalks. They're hanging out in the alleys. People have been solicited, including myself.
Solicited for what?
Prostitution.
Yes.
We're just going to keep it real.
We reached out to Governor Pritzker's office to see how much the hotel stays are costing the state. Governor Pritzker's office says there were over 2,000 migrants sheltering in 12 hotels as of April 25th. 98% of those people moved to independent housing. In January, $90 million from the Illinois General Assembly was helping to provide care for the migrants, including many in Chicago. Over $60 million of that was used for hotel shelter services, including staffing and rooms. We did reach back out to the governor's office to get clarification on if all the migrants moved out of the hotels and didn't get an answer. Inn of Chicago's website says they are temporarily closed until July of 2023. Residents say they hope something changes soon.
So the police can't do anything about it because the lady there was telling me when the police come in, they can't arrest them because they have no documentation.
That is so false.
Illinois has spent over $150 million.
Why people
to
just be
assist
lying?
Asylum seekers since August of 2022. Tia Ewing, Fox 32, Chicago.
And that's the problem, is like, this has really been going on for over a year and y'all ain't got it together yet. So remember when
in Chicago's Galewood neighborhood facility.
One of the first. Here we go. Hold on 1 second. All right. So remember when one of the first migrant shelters were being proposed and protested in Amundsen Park? And Amundsen Park is on the west side in Austin, where Brandon Johnson actually lives. That's his home neighborhood, his base. And so the audacity of you to go into your own community and fail to failed to really communicate with them people and establish the trust that's
In
needed.
Chicago's Galewood neighborhood,
Not this
a
video gonna
facility.
keep playing over here. Hold on, y'all. I'm trying to argue my life together. It just really didn't want to cooperate. There we go. All right, and so the audacity
In
of
Chicago's
you to go and run over the people that voted you in, that are in your own neighborhood, that you know these people. Like, these people, like, I know you on a first name basis, and the audacity of you to come just trying to shove this down our throats and not even come talk to us face to face, and then gaslight, like the gaslighting. He's done this to several aldermen in several communities where he's been like, oh, we're not looking at that property. No. And they're like, bro, you literally had people down here. Like, there's paperwork. Like, why are you lying? And so, they were very vocal. They were one of the first communities in Amundsen because they were rightfully upset. It's like, how can you disrespect us like this to our face, knowing that you're from this area and you understand what this park means to the community? Because shutting it down was going to prevent, senior programs and youth programs. And we talk about the violence in Chicago and having somewhere safe for the youth to go. And especially with him talking about treatment, not trauma. But then here you are coming in, big trauma dog. I don't get it. So, he got what he had coming from the beginning because this is where it started. And so let's look at what happened as a result of Amundsen Park's residents protesting.
Galewood neighborhood, a facility near Amundsen Park, is no longer an option for migrant housing.
NBC5's Kat Martin reports that neighbors have a mix of emotions.
Come Monday, Alderman Chris Taliaferro says staff returns to this field house, and with them, winter programs. The people that protested using a nearby private property at 1900 North Austin as migrant housing bordering Amundsen Park are relieved.
I never was against the migrant, but I was against you taking the resources from our neighborhood, because when you take from us, you take from our kids, you take from our seniors.
I know that's right,
so it's
Platinum
nothing
Week.
personal.
Good morning, everyone.
At this news conference, it's the same neighbors who came out several other mornings to protest. It was their legal action that they say led to key programs for seniors and kids going dark.
We just stood in the gap and how we advocated for our park and for the attorney that stood in the gap for us as well. Now we could get some programming back and get this Christmas stuff back for our kids and the seniors to come out the house.
Alderman Taliaferro thanked Mayor Johnston for, quote, never closing the door on their conversations. And then in a new joint statement, Taliaferro and Johnston said faith leaders stepping up around the city and other sites being chosen led to this decision. In Galewood, Kai Martin, NBC5 News.
So I believe as of when they made that decision, 115th and Halsted was still on the table, which as of now, we don't know. And Brighton Park was still on the table. And as of this conference, I believe it was still all on the table.
You can learn 100 songs on the piano by learning just 4 chords. These.
The buses are right here
no me
saying,
hables.
you know what? There's no more room at the end.
Hold on. So, okay, this whole conference, first of all, he had an attitude. He's in here with these pastors. So these are the faith leaders. Everyone's like, oh, they're coming to save the day now. Now, they weren't here to save the day a year ago. They weren't here before money came from Illinois. They weren't here for that. They came after the budgets got passed, okay? I'm not saying, allegedly, but God called them conveniently at this time to be bestowed with the blessings. And so here they all back behind him in very, the body language is kind of menacing. It's not giving, lay your burdens down, come all ye faithful. It's not. And so he does this press conference and the attitude is just so stank. And the press is so done with him. He's in here with the big time vets. Like I hear Craig Wall and Ann Ahern, who had to back him up, I believe, Craig Wall, because he kept deflecting from one of his questions. And so they were done with him. Like this whole conference was like pulling teeth. And so we get to the end here at 12:25, most replayed section, because Ann Ahern has had enough of this man. Okay, so here we go.
Would you ever consider turning the buses around when the buses arrive here, saying, You know what? There's no more room at the end. We do no longer have the capacity to take anyone else. Maybe it's time to turn the buses around.
Look, do we need better immigration policy in this country? Everybody recognizes that.
Bitch! Oh, I can't stand a person that will just straight evade my question. You know what I'm asking you. And I'm telling you, Mary Ann and them are like done. I can't. Hold on. Here we go. I thought I lost my stream. All right, one more time.
Would you ever consider turning the buses around? When the buses arrive here saying, you know what? There's no more room at the end. We do no longer have the capacity to take anyone else. Maybe it's time to turn the buses around.
Look. Do we need better immigration policy
Look
in
at
this
this
country?
dude's
Everybody
face.
recognizes that. And I've said this repeatedly.
The guy behind
you know,
him.
that foreign policy and national policy has
Look at
not
his face.
done
He's like, ooh, how
its
he gonna
due diligence
spin this?
to meet this particular crisis, but the crisis that existed well
He
beyond
proud.
this moment.
He proud of that
And here's
spin.
the part that's actually worth reporting, I think, it's my opinion, is that when 30,000 Ukrainians
Okay, well, shut up. Let me
arrived
go
in
back.
this
Let me
city
go back. I'm just laughing at this
who were
guy's
seeking
face.
refuge here,
He is so proud
was
of
no
the
discussion.
spin.
None. There are more.
Would you ever consider turning the buses around? When the buses arrive here saying, you know what? There's no more room at the end. We do no longer have the capacity to take anyone else. Maybe it's time to turn the buses around.
Look, do we need better immigration policy in this country? Everybody recognizes that. And I've said this repeatedly, you know, that foreign policy and national policy has not done its due diligence to meet this particular crisis, but the crisis that existed well beyond this moment. And here's the part that's actually worth reporting, I think, it's my opinion, is that when 30,000 Ukrainians arrived in this city who were seeking refuge here, there was no discussion, none. There are more Ukrainian, just give me a second, all right? There are more Ukrainian refugees here in the city of Chicago than asylum seekers. And no one raised a single question. And you know why? Because they had federal dollars attached to them. What I'm simply saying is that if we're going to have real equity and parity in this country, we have to make sure that our policy.
I need y'all to run them federal dollars. Look at the pastors. They like, God dang, this man is good. He has spun at this.
Policies reflect true equity and that they're consistent. So thank you all very much.
You would not turn buses around, man? 115 and Halstead is 38.
It's the walking off for me. It's the walking off and leaving all of them hanging. Like he really just left them up there at the podium.
That if we're going to have real equity and parity in this country, we have to make sure that our policies reflect.
He thought he could drop the mic on that.
Equity and that they're consistent. So thank you all very much.
You would not turn buses around, man? 115.
What about the $5 million? She like, hold up. I had a question about the money. Get back here. Ooh, help us, God. So Brandon, he clearly didn't hit that one out the park. He left in a hurry. His tidy whities were in a bunch. And then so he basically decided, okay, I don't need you guys because I have the church behind me. They're already willing to house these people. I have money coming from the state. I don't know. I don't know other scams and schemes he think he got working for him to his advantage at this point. But he was very cocky at that moment, as you can see, that when he just walked out on like legendary press in Chicago, like that, I believe deserves some damn respect. And so, so sir, you already against the wall with this one. And so he's like, oh, I got Brighton Park in the works. And Brighton Park community has been very vocal. They were very loud. They were very upset that they were kept out of one of the community meetings. They were, protesting because they knew that that land was contaminated, and they were saying, like, you know, if we could have built something on it, we would have been done it, genius, you know, and you should have met with us and talked to us about what's going on. But okay, do you? But we're not going to just let this happen because we're in this community and we know what, you know, it takes to migrate and do it the legal way. And we know that, you know, these shortcuts are leading us nowhere fast. Shortcuts on the migrants' parts and shortcuts on the city's part. And so, you know, these folks rushed over here thinking that the city of Chicago was just this wonderful, glorious place that had just endless resources to take care of them. And they found out quickly that it is not true. And also on top of that, it's multiplied and it's compounded by the fact that we are under leadership that clearly is way in over his head. And so the Brighton Park camp, this is where the alderman got assaulted, you know, and Brandon was supposed to be going to the border, but then didn't, I guess, because she got assaulted, or maybe because there was questions about who was paying for it and he didn't want to talk about, you know, all that money. And so it was very contentious the whole time. The whole neighborhood was out there protesting loudly. And, you know, and like I said, this is a very highly immigrant dense neighborhood. So you got, you know, Chinese and Latinos and all sorts of people over there really all on the same page. Like, we do not want this. So it looked very bad and it got, I'm sure, national attention, right? And so for you to push this thing on them, in spite of that, lock them out of the community meetings. Again, this is given very much how you did Austin. So we already knew the tone was set. And if you'll walk off and leave your faith leaders behind you that are only in it for their check, apparently, because of their timing of being so impeccable, right? So then who are you? Like, you're really crappy guy. And so I'm just like, wow. You know, karma gotta come for this guy, right? And it looks like
know that
all the
people
chips
went to the bathroom every day.
just started a falling. Okay.
They're gonna start moving as soon as they can because they gotta cover.
So he decided, I'm gonna go ahead and push this.
And all the women that they've been lying from day one.
Well, despite fierce opposition, crews are wasting no time building the city's first migrant encampment in Brighton Park.
Construction began this morning, and already the framework for 2 massive tents is nearly done.
So you rushing it.
Live with details on how soon migrants could be moving in. Casey?
It was all good
Natalie
just a week
and Scott,
ago.
City officials won't say, but earlier this evening we spoke with a woman off camera who's been hired to work security at the campsite.
Making
and she
bank.
tells us her start date is this Friday.
Ooh, she mad. She just spent that Christmas money already. I hope she's going somewhere
neighbors
else.
feel they've been kept in the dark, but now it's as clear as day.
Nobody was really told this was going to happen. They basically just said, we're going to do this, shut up.
It only took hours to build the structures for 2 tents. City officials say the campsite could house upwards of 2,000 new arrivals. Migrants will have an 11 p.m. curfew, but neighbors fear it will be tough to enforce.
I can handle myself, but at the same time, I worry more about the children in the neighborhood, you know.
Built and operated by Garda World, an employee hired to work security here says she'll be starting on Friday and will be keeping watch in and outside the premises.
They just opened up Pandora's box.
The build comes as neighbors are still sounding the alarm about what lies beneath the surface. They believe the soil at the former industrial site is contaminated.
So guess what's going to end up happening? Sooner or later, people are going to end up getting sick. They're going to sue the city of Chicago, us as taxpayers, or we're going to end up paying double.
The city has yet to release test results. A spokesman with the mayor's office says, quote, details regarding environmental remediation will be provided this week. The base camps will have bathrooms, showers, and even a mobile kitchen. The city is paying nearly $92,000 a month to lease the lot, and that is on top of a $29 million deal it struck with Garda World in September to build these encampments. Reporting live in Brighton Park, Casey Cronus, Fox 32, Chicago.
All right. Okay. And so, yeah, your boy.
The city is
Hold on, we're getting ahead of ourselves here. So your boy thought he was gonna throw that up real quick. He got the faith leaders behind him. He got his little money coming. He got his contract signed. He got his land. He's getting the migrants out the police
is intended
stations
to
before
remove
it's
people
cold,
from sleeping at
like
police
he
stations
said.
and help them integrate into the community.
something we found isn't always happening.
But then
we're stepping in here to try to help and accelerate this process. It isn't moving fast enough.
At Chicago Police District 18, the bottlenecks the governor says he wants to eliminate are clear. We saw some of the same people staying here who we'd met and interviewed 6 weeks ago. We also met this man who told me he's been in Chicago a week.
¿Te preocupa quedarte en la calle?
Totalmente.
He says he's grateful for the resources, but concerned about living on the street.
Es un gran problema para todos.
Winter will be very cold, he says, and we all need a place to be comfortable. The governor's announcement includes $30 million for an intake center, $65 million for support services, and another $65 million to help create a winterized tent community that could house up to 2,000 people for as long as 6 months. What's not clear is where these services will be located, and will it be enough, as the city spends nearly $40 million a month already?
Why now? Why
$40 million a month, just Chicago.
Well, the city's been operating its own methodology process, right? And it hasn't moved fast enough.
It hasn't moved
be
fast
a welcoming
enough.
city and a sanctuary city.
That's because
Mayor Brandon Johnson on Wednesday hinted at a
Beyonce.
new approach to the crisis, including a tiered 60-day limit on shelter stays. The new policy shift and the additional monies are meant to help remove people from sleeping outside of police stations and get them into temporary shelters.
Right. So we did all that. We got our money. Brandon got called out by JB, and he never does that. As much as he couldn't stand Lori Lightfoot, he never came out and tried to trash her publicly. But at this point, he like, look, I'm trying to be president one day. The DNC coming here. I worked hard on getting that. And you're not about to mess this up. I also saw something when they said that they started butting heads because JB and BJ, because Brandon was adamant that he wanted to appoint, someone as chair of the DNC or whatever, that, he had already had in mind, and he was basically trying to force the governor to go along with it. And the governor's like, no, I have my pick. And so they fought over that. And he was like, basically like, I'm the reason you even have the DNC here. I'm saving your behind. You're an amateur. Get out of my way. I'm bigger than you. And so, yeah, I don't know what Brandon Johnson's thinking, but he screwed up. The minute I saw JB Pritzker on the news saying he wasn't moving fast enough, I knew that was the beginning of the end for this man. And the fall came swiftly thereafter. Let's see. I think that was this one. Nope. Oh my God. I think this is the one.
Good afternoon. I'm Erica Sargent.
Great to have you with us. I'm Joe Donlin. We begin here at 5 with breaking news. The tents are up, but not for long. Today, Governor J.B. Pritzker abandoned plans to build a migrant camp in Brighton Park, saying there are too many serious environmental concerns.
Our drone capturing this video showing just how much construction was already done at
They
the
were
site
already
at 38th
paid,
in California.
baby.
Yesterday, the state halted work there, saying the Illinois EPA was in the process of reviewing a more than 700-page environmental report the city released late Friday night. The report describes mercury found in the soil there, which the city says has since been removed. Other issues the city claims were covered by 6 inches of crushed gravel. Then today, the state says the site, which the city chose, is a no-go. So how did this all come to be?
CBS 2 political reporter Chris Ty live for us in the newsroom with what this does to the relationship between the governor and the mayor, and also what's next for migrants in Chicago. Chris?
Joe and Erica, winter starts in 16 days. The promise by Mayor Johnston has been to have a more formal plan in place by that date. Today, a setback served up by the state as the clock ticks and the temps fall.
I'm moving with incredible expediency.
That urgency dealt
He's
a
so
blow
angry.
Tuesday by the governor, who at 10 a.m. said
their plan by EPA had been to review.
Can we shout out the twist out over here? Okay,
this that was delivered to them. So they're making sure that they're doing a thorough job.
An hour later, a knockout punch for Brighton Park's chances of ever housing migrants at this already built out and paid for migrant base camp. Pritzker's head of the Illinois EPA writing current and planned site conditions do not adequately reduce risks of human exposure to known and potential environmental conditions. The governor adding we will not proceed with housing families on a site where serious environmental concerns are still present. My administration remains committed to a data-driven plan to improve the asylum seeker response, and we will continue to coordinate with the city of Chicago as we work to expand available shelter through winter.
The state of Illinois knew that.
Is J.B. Pritzker a racist? Was the Mercury racist?
This assessment was happening and felt confident enough to continue to build on this site and to go into a contract with Garda World.
That's the company.
Of course,
that built
all he
out
worried about
the
is the
camp.
contracts.
So what's the mayor's plan B?
As other folks have asked.
He really tried to blame J.B. Pritzker.
As other folks have asked for Plan B, I've been planning for Plan B, C, and D, and F, E, and F from the very moment
But what
that I
are they?
became the mayor of
Tell
the city
me
of
one.
Chicago.
Tell me one other plan.
No specific plan B was offered, but former UIC political science professor Dick Simpson says what this does offer up is a glimpse into what friction between a Democratic governor and a Democratic mayor looks and sounds like.
The relations between Brandon Johnson and Governor Pritzker are a little tense. They're not on the same page. The city needs more money. The state has less to give. So there's tension.
His tension, the mayor says base camps are just part of his larger plan, as are brick and mortar options, though, again, he did not elaborate on where those sites might be. Back to the drawing board
no
for
tiene
the political...
ni una idea. ¿Es por qué?
Well, there has to be better coordination. You know, what we've seen is a very raggedy form.
This was right before JB shut him down.
Extremism. Everyone knows that the right-wing extremism in this country has targeted democratically ran cities. And quite frankly, they've been very intentional about going after democratically ran cities that are led by people of color. And their whole motivation is to create disruption and chaos, because that's what that particular party has been about. Right? This
so
is
you're
the
gonna
same
blame them?
Party that did not want to accept that President Obama was actually an American. It's the same Republican right-wing extremism that stormed the Capitol. It's the same right-wing extremism that refuses to accept the results of the Civil War. It's raggedy. It's disrespectful. It's mean-spirited. It's an unclean
He lost
spirit,
them
quite
two
frankly.
hueras in the back.
And so I got you. I just want to make sure that people understand
Mira,
what we're facing.
mira las hueras.
That's why it's so important.
They're like,
the
wait,
faith
what?
community is leaning
What about
in
the
in this
Civil War?
moment. And so what I've said, there has to be better coordination. Look, Pastor Will Hall, who's also an alderman of the 6th Ward,
What about the Civil War? You seen their face? They were like, espérese un momento, señor. Que no vamos a hacer hablar mal de mi gente. You went a little too far.
Oh, I got you. I just want to make sure that people understand what we're. It's the same right-wing extremism that refuses to accept the results of the Civil War. It's raggedy.
Look, she was confused. She was like, whoa, we going that far back? Racism go that far back? She was shocked and shook, shocked and shooketh. All right, so these folks are ridiculous. So yeah, he want to blame the Civil War on why Biden won't close the borders, and he think he can invite everybody to Christmas dinner. Mira eso.
Hey, I'm Amy Brown, and my friends at One Country are giving away this incredible lake house in Oklahoma.
Sick of these commercials.
This hidden gem features a lake access and endless amenities for the ultimate home away.
Residents prevail. The residents
That's
want
right.
the place.
We are the community.
He's talking
Somos la
about a
comunidad.
controversial migrant encampment on the city's southwest side. It's been shut down for good.
Governor Pritzker making that final call today after state experts uncovered serious environmental concerns.
Casey Cronus is in Brighton Park with the latest.
Officials say toxic chemicals like mercury and arsenic discovered in the soil were not addressed in ways that meet state standards. This bombshell development is a major setback for the Johnson administration, but for many residents, it is a win.
This was known by the city of Chicago. There's institutional knowledge. Now we've learned how contaminated this is.
24 hours after Governor Pritzker paused construction on the city's first winterized tent city, the operation came to a sudden halt.
It's not even safe for them. It's not safe
Oh,
for
she
them.
killed it. I gotta find the clip with
who have
her.
been warning officials about the toxic soil from the start, says up until now they were blatantly ignored.
That is incompetence. That is brutal ignorance. That is putting the migrants in danger. It's putting the residents in danger. And when they were doing construction, that was all going up into the air.
In reviewing a nearly 800-page report, the Illinois Environmental Protection Agency identified several concerns with the city's sampling and remediation work, calling it insufficient. In response, the mayor's office says the state was aware of its assessments, yet didn't provide additional guidance. Still, community members are blasting Mayor Brandon Johnson.
Wasteful spending. He did this on his own. And now
he said he did it on his own. He ain't say nothing about JB.
Now, the state says it is going back to the drawing board and will reconsider housing migrants in a shuttered CVS in Little Village. 200 beds would be available there. The governor is also working with the Archdiocese of Chicago to explore other options. It is still unclear what will happen with the city's lease on the land and all of the equipment. Meantime, the number of migrants still waiting for shelter placement now hovers around 600. Reporting in Brighton Park, Casey Cronus, Fox 32, Chicago.
So hold on one second.
Did you guys know
that things just be doing things, you know? So yeah. Let me pull this up because sis from that meeting went in. Let's see.
The first thing I want to say.
I bookmarked. Is this the one? Oh, yeah. Esmeralda.
In Spanish
mi
and
reina.
English.
Hola, mi nombre es Esmeralda. Quiero dejar, hay 4 cosas que son bien importantes para todo, que sea bien claro. La primera es la seguridad. La seguridad, y no solo para las personas del barrio, empezando con la seguridad de las personas que quieren poner en este lugar. Son muchísimas personas para concentrarlas en un solo lugar. Ahí no van a tener suficiente seguridad de esas personas y eso no lo están tomando en cuenta. Y siguiendo las personas en el barrio, hay mucha gente caminando, niños, mujeres con sus perritos, mucha gente caminando en las calles y ellos poniendo una cantidad tan enorme de personas concentrándonos en un lugar, eso no va a garantizar la seguridad para las personas que están alrededor tampoco, porque no hay suficiente policía para cuidar los que ya estamos contimados para una cantidad tan enorme. La segunda es la comida. Si no hay suficientes tiendas de comida para que uno pueda tener variedad suficiente, ¿va a haber suficiente para 2,000 personas trayéndolas aquí al barrio? No. La tercera es la cuestión médica. La cuestión médica, los hospitales que tenemos en el área están saturados. ¿Va a haber suficiente? ¿Estas personas no se van a enfermar? ¿Hay alguien que va a garantizar que ellos no se van a enfermar? Claro que no. Y esas personas no van a tener dónde acudir para recibir un servicio médico. Y la cuarta es trabajos. ¿Por qué quieren concentrar un número tan enorme de personas en un solo lugar? ¿Van a poner una fábrica al lado para darles trabajos a todos? ¿O qué es lo que planean hacer? Es muy ilógico concentrar una enorme cantidad de personas en un solo lugar cuando no va a haber los recursos ni para ellos y mucho menos tampoco se les estaría quitando a los que ya tienen ahora. I want to say it on English now. That is 4 biggest concern that they not even take care and they don't consider about. And it's safety first. Safety. Putting this big, huge amount of people concentrated in one place. For beginning, it's not even safe for them. It's not safe for them. They're not going to have enough security to make sure they have the safe they deserve. That's one. And second, who's going to take care of the safe of the kids walking around on the streets going to school? The ladies that are in the morning and the nighttime going outside, taking care of the dogs and stuff. They're not going to be able to guarantee that for our people, our communities. It is not logic put this huge amount in one place. Second, food. There is not enough. They put it in the poor places. They not even have enough food stores for the people living around.
Right.
We don't receive all the variety of food that we should do. And now putting this huge amount of people, what are they going? They put more stores? The third, it's the jobs. Are they going to put a big place for them? Do they give it a job next to the place? They don't know drive. They don't know the English. They're going to struggle. And they not looking for those things. They only politics, only caring about the money, only caring to resolve the age of the problem. But the real problem, they not really taking care of that. And it is so sad. They say they care about them. They not caring about them. And for sure, they not caring about people
you gonna put them on
around.
contaminated
They only
land?
care on themselves. And that is so sad. And even when we're trying to stand up, even they send the police to push us away by force, which is the police that is paid with the money that we give it to the city. It's so unfortunate. But they don't say. They say we're racist. They said we are extreme. But what do they say? They pushing people away. They throwing people to the floor. They don't pass that in the news. They don't say that. They only say what they want to say. And they don't defend them. They don't defend us. So sad that they take those actions. Thank you.
Ooh, Esmeralda, you ate that.
Esmeralda, Esmeralda. Thank you.
¿El apellido?
Gutierrez, Gutierrez.
Esmeralda, mi reina. She ate that. Did she lie? Did she forget to tell y'all something? I don't think so. That's what I'm talking about. So, like she said, I'm not no extremist. I'm not no racist. I'm just telling y'all some common sense. And if y'all can sit here and throw us around and push us out of buildings and mistreat us with the police that we pay for, and then take our resources away and not promise us nothing out of this, and then can't even guarantee our security, So Esmeralda, thank you, because you killed that, mommy. So yeah, he's blaming the white supremacists. He got Esmeralda out here getting her blood pressure up behind this when she got better things to do, I'm sure, as we all. And then let's see, it was one more thing. Oh, this was great.
Step into Wix Studio, the new web creation platform built for agencies.
I'm so sick of these ads.
Where creative freedom.
Jeanette Taylor made headlines in 2021 when she went toe-to-toe with then-Mayor Lori Lightfoot during a tense city council meeting. Now the outspoken 20th Ward alderwoman back in the spotlight for recent comments she made critical of Mayor Brighton Johnston during an interview on the Ben Jaworski Show.
We should not be on the fifth floor. And I'm speaking my whole heart. We were not ready because we haven't been in government long enough to know how government really runs.
Taylor was unavailable for a follow-up interview, but her comments were referencing the
I wonder
progressive
Rivera
movement
got a
that
hold
she
of
and
her.
Mayor Johnston have been a part of for years.
I felt like we're not ready, and it's showing out in the wash. I don't got to say it. People see it. We're pretending like now we got the power that'll show you how it's supposed to be done.
And it is.
And we look real stupid right now.
I think the movement and the mayor have some serious concerns here because people are speaking out publicly about some of his shortcomings or about some of the shortcomings of the movement very early in his administration, and that's not a good sign.
27% approval rating.
Frustration stemming from the migrant crisis, but another progressive mayoral ally, Alderman William Hall, suggesting Taylor's criticism is off base.
So for us to, again, sit from the sidelines and criticize an administration.
Now he
and a
said she
mayor
on the
and
sidelines.
not walk in his shoes, not have the responsibility it has, is sideline spectating.
But as Taylor
That's so
demonstrated
easy to
in a
say.
recent
What a
city council
deflection.
meeting, she's not worried about what people think of her.
I don't care if you don't like me. Join the club. We got jackets.
Everyone's frustrated, confused, upset, but that's not a reflection of how this will end.
Yeah, okay, but
Mayor
y'all ain't got no
Brighton
answers in the meanwhile. Like, take me to the king, okay? These, oh my God. I can't. So yeah, Jeanette, thank you for being honest and letting us have this conversation that we all kind of were seeing with our own eyes, but delusional people who choose politics and party allegiance over, their own welfare is just crazy. So let's see. Last thing I wanted to get into, because we're going on an hour. And so he's blamed Brandon, and I think I showed this.
We got news from the governor. I'm sure you
here.
got it as well. That Brighton Park's a no-go. Can you first of all give us a reaction?
Look at
and
this. Look at his
what
whole
would be the plan
demeanor.
B now that you can't use this site?
Yeah, well, first of all, the mission is still very much alive. I've said from the very beginning, especially as winter is approaching and weather is shifting, is to get people out of police stations, women, children sleeping on the floors, those who are sleeping outside, to remove people from police districts. And we've been doing that work. In fact, I believe the latest number that I have, there were almost 4,000 people in police districts as well as the airport. That number is now down to under 500, and so that work continues.
And this was what someone brought up. If you're down to 500 migrants in police stations, why did you need to build a campsite for 2,000 people? And I believe a couple of the aldermen mentioned that you know, there are brick and mortar sites that would accommodate the few migrants left at the police stations. And, you know, with the timing of everything, you know, people should be getting their own housing as far as those folks who've been, you know, waiting on work permits and things like that to pan out. I mean, y'all were giving away rent, money, like it was all types of scenarios. So I just don't understand how the parts aren't coming together the way they should.
Continues because of the type of collaboration that we're bringing. And look, this site, when the state of Illinois took control over this contract, going into this agreement with Garda World, they fully understood that we were providing the necessary assessments to take a look at.
You see how he's trying to spin this? The community told you this was contaminated. You knew it was contaminated. You had the report, and you went ahead and started building anyway after you told the governor, yeah, this the site. And then after he was like, hold up, wait a minute, and looked at the report because it's 800 pages, now you want to try and blame all of this on him. Like, so are you the mayor or not? Is JB running Chicago, or are you? He already said, JB already established, like, the city chooses the sites and we just pick them. So, like, he already done cleaned this up. It's like, you really just sat here and tried to call this man out for no good reason. So I believe further in this interview, he goes in to say something about white supremacy. I think that was that clip I showed
dynamics that
earlier.
exist that we figured because of, bad toxicity and bad policies over the course of generations.
Not bad toxicity and bad policy over the course of generations. When we're talking about mercury in soil, sir, and some, I think it was a couple other toxins, but the fact that you thought you could cover this up with, 6 inches of aggregate rock that children will easily move and play with, that they said the tent stakes went deeper into, and you were gonna let these poor women and children that you were so worried about sleeping on a police station floor, you wanted to give them some dignity by putting them in tents outside on toxic land in a neighborhood where nobody really wanted them there. And then you would have went through all of that and had them folks turn around like they did in New York, when they got on the bus and said, we'll go back to the hotel because we don't like this. We don't like this, okay? I believe this might have been that clip right there. Let me see if I got it. Oh, no, this was the other one. All right, we'll do that another time. But I wanted to do this. The last one. Let's see. Oh, this is great.
The Chicago City Council committee is meeting to discuss federal help for asylum seekers. The Immigrant and Refugee Rights Committee meeting started just moments ago. Alder people are expected to echo their previous calls to the federal
school, parks, and all kind of things on that site, but they were unable to do it because of all kind of things on that situation. The migrants in a tent on a contaminated site.
Oh, you know what? I got a better one. I think this is the one I did. Or no.
We got news from the governor. I'm
all
sure
right.
you got
I
it
guess
as
this
well.
was
That
the
Brighton
clip.
Park's a no-go. Can you first of all give us a reaction, and what would be the plan B now that you can't use this site?
Yeah, well, first of all, the
Chicago
mission
City
is...
Council committee is meeting to discuss federal help for asylum seekers.
I wanted to pull up that clip of him and Ray Lopez outside, but I guess I lost it. But this was good too, because they really
Mayor
kept trying to
has shown
spin
the
what
lack
he was
of leadership and
leadership. His
Here we go.
resign, but 7 months. Does this give you talk about these 7 staffers that you think should resign, but does this situation give you concerns about the mayor's leadership, his leadership, and also about the strained relationship he now has, we believe, with the governor.
Right. Well, I think that the mayor has shown a lack of leadership and lack of experience when it comes down to managing crises, when it comes down to managing a crisis such as this. I think he has shown poor leadership. And that's because he doesn't have quality, experienced people around him that know what they're doing. I can tell you, I've been in office for 24 years. I have more experience than everybody around him combined. And nobody has ever reached out and said, Alderman, can you come in and help us kind of navigate some of this? There are people out there that have experience in managing crises like this, but they're not being leaned on. And so we have people who know nothing about government, who know nothing about dealing with crises, making decisions, and they don't know what they're doing.
Alderman,
and that
it's funny.
That goes all the way to the top.
We've heard other elected officials say the same in the last couple of days. But, you and Alderman Lopez in particular have been frequent and outspoken critics in the city council, not only of this administration, but the last one as well. Some might say you are using this matter to grandstand. Your response?
Well, how do you grandstand when you're trying to protect people from being put on a contaminated site? How do you grandstand when you're trying to protect hundreds of millions of taxpayer dollars? I don't think that's grandstanding. I think I'm trying to be the voice of the people of the city of Chicago that are being rolled over by being dictated to, by trying to put a camp in their community who didn't want it, who are, we spending hundreds of millions of dollars. We have never said that we have to take care of these migrants. There's nothing on the books. There's nothing in our records and our laws that say we have to take care of the migrants that come to the city of Chicago to the tune of hundreds of millions of dollars. When you look at the people here in the city of Chicago who are already suffering, who are already starving for resources, I can do amazing things in my ward if you gave me $100 million a year.
Alderman,
I can transform my entire ward with that kind of money.
It's kind of, we're talking about two issues here. One is obviously the boondoggle that happened over the last couple weeks, and then, of course, how that money should be used instead. But I am going to have to stop you right there for time purposes.
Clearly, this issue continues to touch a nerve.
Right.
Alderman Anthony Beale from the 9th Ward on the South Side, thanks so much for being with us and your candid thoughts. We appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
Okay, and so he and Ray Lopez have long established that this was a huge waste of money. And, Beale wanted to put the sanctuary thing up on the city. On the on a referendum ballot for the city to vote. And so this is that letter that he was referring to that they penned to get Brandon Johnston to resign. So it basically just states that they wanted the immediate resignation of several city officials after the state struck down plans for a migrant encampment in Brighton Park. The winterized tent city was being constructed on a 9.5-acre lot located at 38th Street and California Avenue and was a topic of heated debate for months. So after J.B. Pritzker made the final call to stop construction on Tuesday, after state experts uncovered serious environmental concerns upon review of a nearly 800-page report conducted by Terracon Consultants, Inc. All these people are getting paid good money. Alderman Anthony Beale 9th and Alderman Ray Lopez 15th and Alderman Anthony Napolitano 41st, I'm so sorry if I said that wrong, sent a letter to Brandon Johnston on Wednesday. Only 3 aldermen. Jeanette wasn't one of them, even though Miss Taylor called him out. She didn't sign. She still believe in him, okay? But yeah, so only 3 aldermen asked for this immediate resignation of department leaders responsible for the failed shelter. So in quotes, the city of Chicago needs individuals who are serious, deliberative, and collaborative, key word, in addressing the ongoing migrant asylum seeker crisis that began in August 2022 and continues to this day, the letter stated. Residents have been strongly opposed to the site since its location was pitched, saying the land was contaminated. This is a site where the city knew it had contaminants, but was forcing this issue down the throats of a community that did not want it. The community warned the administration there were contaminants here, and it was totally ignored, said Beale during a press conference on Wednesday. The alder people ask that the following city officials resign for their involvement in the process: Gary Gatewood, Beatrice Ponce de Leon. Remember, that was the one with the crazy looking face in that meeting I did on that other video at Amundsen Park. Lori Lipson, Alexandra Goodwin, Christina Pachion Zayas, Maura McCauley, and Matthew Richards. What we have seen in Brighton Park, however, does not show members of your administration as being either serious, deliberative, or collaborative in addressing this issue. Taxpayer funds are now wasted after a failed attempt to build on highly cancerous soil without permits, without true community engagement, without a plan that is respectful to those whom so many performatively articulate sanctuary for in our city. Ooh, ain't that? The letter continued. They failed in this moment. We cannot allow them to continue to drive policy here in the city of Chicago, not only putting the lives of those individuals at risk, but putting taxpayers on the hook for future litigation once those health issues that we know are probable impact the migrants whom we've welcomed, said Lopez. In response, he gonna reply, but is it gonna be a response? In response, a spokesperson with the Office of Mayor Brandon Johnston said the correspondence is, quote, not serious and instead, quote, attacks the very people working to solve this humanitarian crisis. Wow. So saying, hey, bro, maybe you shouldn't put these people on contaminated soil is attacking you? Cool. The statement continues. Between November and December of 2022, 8 buses of asylum seekers arrived in Chicago. Once again, we're saying asylum seekers. Everybody ain't an asylum seeker. From November 1st, 2023 to today, December 6th, 2023, Chicago has received 102 buses of asylum seekers, from 8 to 102. I don't understand. I don't understand the sentence. Our administration remains focused on housing and providing resources for new arrivals, as well as unhoused Chicagoans and residents who for generations have experienced neglect and disinvestment in our city. I'm trying to figure out how you're going to do all of this at the same time. There's enough to go around. That's what they said. We have monopoly money. We will continue collaborating with anyone taking this work seriously. With the shutdown of the Brighton Park encampment taking place mid-construction, the conversation now continues over where to house new arrivals. The state says it will go back to the drawing board and plans to reconsider housing migrants in a shuttered CVS location at 26 in Pulaski and Little Village. Meanwhile, on Wednesday evening, parishioners at the back of the Yards Church perform a traditional holiday ritual in honor of the newcomers at Immaculate Heart of Mary Catholic Church. Members of the Coalition of Spiritual and Public leadership gathered to celebrate the Posadas, and then other faith leaders from various churches shared a message of solidarity. Okay, Christmas, happiness. We will be reenacting. Okay, yeah. As of Wednesday, less than 550 were waiting for shelter. So like I said, they don't really have the urgency that they once had, and to put them on contaminated land is like so unjustifiable. So like not only are you wasting our money on this migrant crisis, Brandon. Let's go, Brandon. You're also continuing to waste our tax dollars fighting wrongful convictions. So I know maybe some of you have seen James Gibson filed a lawsuit a couple years ago against the city of Chicago. He was given a certificate of innocence after he basically was tortured and beaten and coerced into a confession for a murder, a double homicide in, I believe, 1989 on the west side. I want to say that he didn't commit. And so, he got the certificate of innocence. So it's already been proven that this man did not commit this crime. He should be free and clear, but he has to file his civil suit, rightfully so, because he needs to be compensated for spending 29 years in jail for a crime that he didn't commit, being beaten and battered by John Burge's midnight crew or whatever. And so the late John Burge and his estate have been defending these accusations and these civil suits, and the city has paid millions of dollars. And so here we are. We're still doing it. Lori Lightfoot fought against some of these convictions, against some of these civil suits, even though she was part of the accountability, police reform and accountability board, and, she oversaw everything transitioning from the Laquan McDonald, but then Antoinette Young, I believe it was, happened under her watch. So we got that. But yeah, these black mayors have had opportunities to try to, make a reparation in this kind of sense as far as social justice and police brutality. And here we are, two so-called highly qualified individuals who could have taken this on have not. So what James Gibson is looking for that is special is the fact that, because he spent all his time in jail, he knew he didn't do this crime. He started researching law and trying to help others get, out of their charges. And then once he was freed and he's able, to prove his innocence, or he has that certificate of innocence, and he now has filed his lawsuit, he goes, you know what? I'm not going to just fight this for just me. I want to fight it and have a summary judgment. So he entered a motion of a summary judgment, which would basically allow anyone who was tortured under John Burge to just make their claim, not have to prove that John Burge tortured or oversaw the officers that tortured them into these confessions and these false convictions. And so that would save the city millions. It would save a lot of grief for these people who've already spent years wasted. This man's mom died while he was in jail. Let me play the video. Ciao.
This holiday season, keep your health front and center. Opt for balanced, nutritious meals and moderate your alcohol intake. Most of all, make healthy choices and be around people that make you happy.
Learn more at healthydrivenchicago.com.
Oh my God, these ads.
Judy, the video campaign entitled Dear Brandon goes straight at Mayor Johnston, and the first episode features James Gibson on the left, who served more than 29 years for a double murder before it was determined he'd been tortured by Chicago police into confessing. As the I-Team has reported, City Hall continues to fight cases such as Gibson's long after the wrongly convicted have been found innocent.
Brandon, my name is James Grant Gibson. I served 29 years, 4 months, and 7 days of malicious prosecution, false imprisonment, and torture. I've been issued a certificate of innocence and exonerated. I've been awarded $200,000 from the state of Illinois. So what is there to relitigate against the city now?
The Dear Brandon campaign will feature individuals wrongly convicted and mothers who have lost their sons to unjustified police shootings in Chicago, placing public pressure on the mayor to stop spending hundreds of millions of dollars fighting suits against Chicago by wrongfully convicted people who have certificates of innocence, which are granted by a judge. I-Team investigations have found this practice has been happening for decades, with taxpayers coughing up millions to outside law firms for predictable legal losses and court fights experts say the city should never undertake.
It was been a disgrace and a horrible part of Chicago's history. We already know James Gibson is going to win his case, whether it's at trial or via settlement.
After it was determined notorious ex-CPD commander John Burge had tortured Gibson, he was cleared of killing 2 people in 1989, but had served 29 years, 4 months, and 7 days.
They took everything. They took everything. They tried to take my morals and my principles. This is a picture of my mama. They sent me in prison when she died, and they wouldn't allow me to go see her.
Ooh-wee!
Dear Brandon Johnson, take a direct course and direct action in stopping this political red tape of this madness and wasting taxpayers' money.
Period. Because you good at that. So they're going at his head as they should, because you can't keep trying to pull the black card, sir. You can't keep talking about the right-wing extremists. You can't run on treatment, not trauma. Bring Chicago home. And then this man get home and he got to still fight the city of Chicago to get what's due to him. This is not who you claim to be. Progressive my butt. So we got enough for everybody. We got to help care for these migrants. Meanwhile, who says that? Like Beale said, there's nothing on the books. Politifact. Who is responsible for helping migrants in Chicago and New York City? Leaders say Biden can do more. Okay, so if your time is short, it is. New York and Illinois, can y'all see that? Yeah. New York and Illinois have spent tens of millions of dollars in the past year to house and feed asylum seekers in their states. Most state and local governments are not legally obligated to feed, clothe, and house immigrants. Governors, mayors, and business leaders are urging the federal government to expedite work permits for asylum seekers. Local leaders are also asking for federal government for more funding. All right, so that was not what I wanted. So that's what happens when you try to cut corners. It's commonplace for Republicans to criticize Joe Biden's immigration policies, but recently some Democratic governors and mayors have joined the fray. Yeah, because it hurts everyone. Are we over it yet? New York City Mayor Eric Adams recently announced budget cuts and city government hiring freeze to offset spending to help the 110,000 migrants who have arrived in the city since the spring of 2022. He blamed the budget cuts on federal and state governments. While our compassion is limitless, our resources are not. Adams said in a September 9th video address to New Yorkers, "We have not received substantial support from the federal or state government to handle those costs or change the course of this crisis." Adams is not the only leader sounding an alarm on this issue. Cities across the U.S., such as Chicago, Washington, D.C., and Los Angeles, have received thousands of migrants in the past year. Those places leaders say feeding and providing shelter to migrants is straining local governments' resources substantially. New York, Illinois, and Massachusetts state and city leaders are urging the federal government to change policies and allocate additional funding to support the rising number of asylum seekers. Here we go, interchanging the words. Though Democratic New York Governor Kathy Hochul, I think I'm saying her name right, administration has sometimes sought to blame Adams' management of the crisis. Britzer. She also has pressured the Biden administration to do something about it. New York is in urgent need for the federal government to take executive action and direct significant financial assistance to address this issue, Hochul said in an August 24th letter to Biden. Similarly, in Illinois, Governor J.B. Pritzker and Chicago Mayor Brandon Johnson, both Democrats, have sought federal relief. They urged the Department of Homeland Security to use its authority to allow the nearly 13,000 asylum seekers who have arrived in Chicago since last August to more quickly receive employment authorization. There is no path to success without significant federal financial support and immigration policy changes, Pritzker and Johnson said in an August 28th joint letter. But the White House says the responsibility lies with Congress, which has failed for decades to pass immigration reform legislation. As the blame game continues, Politifact explores state and city obligations to support migrants, what governments have done, and what they're requesting. Okay, so let's get to it. So, thousands of asylum seekers, hold on. I'm trying to find it. Settled in the U.S. since he was inaugurated. Migrants are on their way to different cities. Thousands, come on. Can't usually apply for work permits for 6 months. Obligations for, okay, here we go. Government obligations to support migrants depend on the jurisdiction. State and local government's legal obligations to take care of migrants. Okay, I just totally read that twice because why would you put it in a headline and then a separate sentence? All right. In general, governments do not have an obligation to feed, clothe, or house migrants, said Nicole Hallett, director of the University of Chicago Immigrants' Rights Clinics. Even if cities and states don't have a legal obligation, they may still decide as a policy matter to provide services to migrants who otherwise would end up on the streets or in hospitals or relying on overburdened nonprofits and social service organizations. However, all states are required to provide children with access to public primary and secondary education, regardless of their immigration status. In New York City and Massachusetts, the city and state governments are legally obligated to provide residents with shelter. Failing to do so could lead to lawsuits against the city or the state, Yale lawyers said. In New York City, Adams is seeking a change from city courts in the shelter mandate that would let the city deny shelter to adults if it lacks the resources or capacity. If changed, New York City's mandate would be similar to the one in Massachusetts, which is required to only shelter to shelter only pregnant women and families with children. So no bueno for you homosexuals. How have state and local governments supported migrants? New York City, Chicago, D.C., Massachusetts have provided shelter for tens of thousands of migrants who've arrived to their communities. And then it just goes into more detail. So if y'all want to read this, there's a lot of information here on funding and everything else, but this is going to be a whole nightmare. So, I mean, Brandon's got money to waste on, fighting lawsuits that we're going to lose and building tent encampments that will be built and shut down within a matter of days because they're contaminated, and Garda-World contracts and those ill-fitting suits that he loves. So I'm just trying to figure this out. Like, what are we going to do? Because Eric Adams is fed up. Denver's Mayor Johnston has turned into Greg Abbott because he's busing people to neighboring towns without their knowledge or consent. And so, I don't know where the end is, but the border is overrun, and we can talk about that on another episode. But there has to be a bigger picture view, because this man is very short-sighted, Brandon Johnson, and it just seems as though there's not a lot of collaboration. And I mean, it's coming out, like, people are very vocally and publicly, making it known that this man is not necessarily qualified as an organizer, as a collaborator, as he thinks. And then to be managing this, multi-billion-dollar budget with very little political or executive, experience as a business person was a very bad decision on all of us. And I mean, I'm going to say all of us because we all didn't vote for him. But this is what identity politics gets us. All skin folk and kin folk. And if anything, I'd be more suspicious of someone that looks like me at this point in time, because we see what the politics are doing. They are putting people out in front of us that do not have our interests at heart, and that will talk a good game and get invited to the barbecue and then do whatever they want to do. So you ain't black if you didn't vote for Biden, and you ain't black if you didn't vote for Brandon, and you ain't black if you don't want the migrants to move in your park district and let the kids just wander in the street and hope for the goodness of the Lord. I don't know. I don't know what the logic is, but I need us to get it together, because this is an untenable situation, as all these mayors are finally coming to grips with the exception of our dear Mr. Brandon Johnson, who we haven't heard much from since he's been, really publicly just shamed by the governor and his fellow, at least three of his city council members. So I'm sure Lori Lightfoot is somewhere with her feet kicked up, rubbing her little socks together with her hot cocoa, with her boo and her bae, and they glad to be up out of this situation. I don't know if she would have handled it any worse or any better. But I mean, at least we made it. At least she got through her first 6 months, above 27% approval rating, I think. So, I don't know. I'm going to pray for the man, because I mean, he clearly not going to resign, since he thinks their letter to resign is a joke. He thinks we're joking. And we'd love to hear from you, Brandon. What do you think? What do you think we should do about you? Like, should we just let you just keep wasting our money, or what's the end game here? Because it can't be caring for the city of Chicago. It can't be preserving, the city in its prestige, or even just its economic rating, or it being a tourist destination. You're running business out the city. You even got the folks. So, because black folks on the South Side, I guess, have been so vocal now, finally, you were scaring everybody with your race cards. So now finally, the yuppies in the South Loop feel comfortable enough to say, hey, we scared to walk around down here. You need to get rid of all these tents and folks loitering and the carjackings and people getting busted in their head and stuff. It's too much. So we haven't heard much from Superintendent Snelling. I haven't heard much on Johnson on what he's doing about crime. He's very occupied with migrants, and he's not doing a great job with that. So What are you doing? He's opened a shelter a week since he's been in office. Okay, great. But we need you to do something for the people who voted for you. And I'm not seeing it. So you can say we bring Chicago home and we put all this money in there. But I mean, where is this coming out? Like, because at the end of the day, our tax money is getting spent. And it doesn't seem to be in a way that is going to be fruitful for the very people that you claim to be going hard for and who you keep throwing out there every time it gets too hot in the press conferences. So I'll see y'all. We're going to end it right there. And I appreciate y'all tuning in. Hopefully the audio works out and we will be doing another live another time. So hit me up, put the comments, share the video, like, subscribe, God child, help me. Like, subscribe, share. Put the video out. Put the comments on there. Let me know what you want to say. All right. All right, y'all. Take care. Bye-bye.